How's it going? How's it going? Welcome aboard. It is I, TJ, and welcome aboard. Taurai Jack is my name, and it is good having you around. If you've never tuned in here, where have you been? If it is your second, third time, welcome aboard. It is I, TJ, and welcome to M5 Successful Friends, and this is where we hang out with people that are doing cool things in their own space, particularly in the area of property. And today I've got a fascinating person, and I've just been finding out some interesting facts about her that I actually didn't know, but I've been hanging around here for a while now. And it is my pleasure and my honor to welcome Marisha Robus. Marisha, good morning, afternoon, evening. I don't know what time it is. Good morning. Welcome aboard.
Hello, TJ. Thank you very much for having me.
Good. So, Marisha Robus, you specialize in inspections, house inspections or property inspections. That's what it's called, right?
That's right.
Good. I had the privilege of meeting you together with your dad. I think it was for the first time. And this is one of my copies of the book that I bought from your dad. And your dad is a young man, Albert Van Wyk. And as you can see, Marisha, I mean, if I'm calling her father a young man, you can see. But I just want us to touch a little bit about your dad before we jump on to you, because I've been using this book kind of like as a manual.
Yes.
In this book here, your dad kind of like went on to cover all aspects of from buying a house, property, should I say, or building it yourself, all the way to renovations. What are some of the things that you see? And there are a whole lot of things in here that the ordinary person doesn't know. And yet all of these are in this book. I always say between myself and other great authors, we have done cool stories out there. But I'm just wondering, do people buy this book? Do they know about it? What's the feedback on this book particularly?
Yes, DJ. The big thing is that when you buy a property, it doesn't come with a manual. Okay. Everything else comes with the manual. Let me know. You get a manual before you operate machines, for your car, for your computer, and there's even a husband's manual. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it's available. But you don't get a manual when you buy a book, when you buy a house. Okay. And that is a big problem. So when we started our inspection business, I said to my dad, listen, first-time home buyers really have a problem because they don't know that they must clean the gutters, do this, do that. Write a little maintenance manual for me or a little thing for first-time home buyers. Right. Then I would say to him, listen, I found this and this in inspections. Please, can you just add that? Then I said, write something about damp. Then I said, but the cracks are driving me crazy. I keep on writing these long stories in my inspection reports about cracks. Just write something about cracks, please. Eventually, I just said, write a book. It's much easier. So then he wrote The Proud Homeowner. And as you said, it covers a lot of things, you know, how to supervise a site when you're building a house and when you're doing alterations. Because there are so many things that you as a layman don't know. You don't know the national building regulations, and you're trusting your builder that he will know the national building regulations. But 90% of the time, they don't know the national building regulations. They don't know why they must put a joint to DPC level. How is it going to prevent damp or anything like that? You got me
confused already what you're talking about right there.
You see, so that is why the Proud Homeowner will assist you, because it gives you, and also we've got entire chapters on damp, cracks, and roof leaks. So there are the other thing people don't realize, there are 15 different types of cracks, and you don't use the same filler to repair all of them.
Okay, so let's pause it there, Marisha.
Okay.
Now, your dad is, from what you've just shared with us right now, okay, you would go out in the field, you know, you'd come back to your dad, you guys are working together in the business. Who is Marisha from a background perspective? Did you just start working in construction or in inspections? Where did the excitement of working with properties that don't talk to you back? When did this thing start?
Properties talk a lot. They have a lot to say. You must just learn to listen.
Yes, yes.
Now, I started in financial advertising. I actually started working at the newspapers in the library because I wasn't allowed to work in the advertising department because I couldn't type. So I did a Damlin typing course at night. And when I could hand in my certificate to say that I could type 35 words per minute, they transferred me to the advertising department. And up to today, okay, now I'm going to give my age away, but there was not a typewriter in the advertising department. Not a typewriter. I never typed a word in the advertising department. But that was the standard. You had to have typing before you could work in the advertising department. Okay. So I then worked in the advertising department. I did the layouts for the newspaper, you know, to say, yeah, this ad would go here, that ad here, and did all the layouts. And then I went and I ended up at a financial advertising agency doing financial adverts for companies listed on the stock exchange, their interim reports, their prelim announcement, new listings, and all things like that. And I really enjoyed it. I went into that side of printing and everything, but my dad had a construction company. And I kept on saying to him, I want to work in the construction company with you. And he said, no, construction is not a place for a woman. And I kept on saying, but why, you know? And then one year we went to the Star Home Show. I don't know if you remember the Star Home Shows. Used to be every second year. They would have a new development and build 10 houses and everybody would flock there for a week and go and look. And my dad and I was at the Star Home Show.
That's a long time ago.
I'm giving away my age now. It's a problem, TJ. And we were walking and my dad said, oh, so by the way, do you know that the CEO of Montague Properties is a woman?
Yeah.
Well, I lost it. I stopped right there and then. I turned to him and I said to him, I now want to work in your company. If a CEO of a big property, of a construction company is a woman, give me a reason why I can't work for you. So eventually he gave in. And I went and worked for him, but he said to me, you have to learn everything. Right. And the day I started working for him, he started building a new house in Besonia Estate. And he said to me, you will go to site every single day until we hand over the keys to the client. So on site the first day, he said to me, the bricklayer is setting out the house skew. So I said, oh, okay, how do you know that? He said, this, and he explained to me. So I learned everything from the word go. So he would shout at the plasterers, no, you're going to cause plaster cracks if you do that. I'm like, why? What? So really, I learned everything from this. No, the bricklayer's making nonsense. The electrician is taking shortcuts. This is not right. That's not right. And then what happened is I had to go back to the office and measure how much steel would we need for the foundations, how much concrete must I order for the foundations, how many bricks must I order, how much sand, cement. So I learned everything from the bottom.
So you were learning literally from doing.
Yes.
You know, you kind of like didn't go to a school and they taught you all of these things. A pizza is this oval thing. You're like in the oven learning how to put the pizza together. And,
that's right.
And in my view, this is the best education ever because you can relate to it, you can touch, feel it. But how did you then progress into home inspections from this company here?
So as you said, my dad is a young man. He will be 82 years old this year.
Wow.
And about 7-8 years ago, he realized that he was really too old to run a site now. You know,
really?
On site all day, kicking butt, was, you know, at the age of 75 was getting a bit much. So
Okay.
I said to him, why don't we do property inspections? I said, you've got this huge well of knowledge that nobody else has, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
nobody can ever take away from you. I
Sure.
said, why don't we go and do inspections? And he said, that's a good idea. So we started the company, and for the first 2 years, he would not allow me to do an inspection by myself. I had to go out with him. He would take the photographs, and I had to make notes what he said, this crack is because of ABC. Then I typed the report, sent it to him to check, and then only would we send it to the client. And then I said, after 2 years, I think I can do my own inspections now. And he was like, no, you'll still, and I think for about 2 weeks, he still came out with me. And then he would say to me, did you pick that up? Did you pick that up? You know, just to check up on me. And then for 6 months, I had to send all my reports to him to check before he would allow me to send it out to clients. So our reports are really detailed. We really try not to miss anything. And it's really our pride and joy, our reports that we do for our clients.
Marisha, you learned the hardcore way. You know, you've got a relationship with your dad on one side as a father, and you've got the same person, but the relationship is different because he's a business partner.
Yes.
I just want to zoom in there a little bit because a lot of us just struggle to work with family. And there you are wanting to work with your father, and your father saying no, and you are showing highest interest, and your father is saying no. Eventually he gets you in, but he's this protective person. How did that make you feel as an individual?
TJ, I just saw it that my dad wanted the best for me, and that he wanted me to be the best person that I can be. And I just, even today, I mean, you know, he doesn't, if I find out that, or I get an inclination that this is going to be a difficult inspection, or the client tells me things, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to know what's going on there, then I'll take my dad with. Or if I do an inspection and I say, yeah, I'm not sure about this, I'll say to the client, please, can I come back and bring my dad? And the clients appreciate it. So even today, my dad and I have a very, very special relationship, that there is still so much that he knows that I have not learned. And I want to learn it from him. And I'm not sure how long he's still going to be around with me. I mean, he's 82, he's in good health. But, you know, you never know. So I just want to spend as much time as I can with him, learn as much from him as possible. And all he wants is the best for me. And he wants me to be the best inspector and the best person I can be.
Yeah. Do you have any siblings, or are you the only child?
No, I'm the only child. I'm the only child.
So that kind of like helped in cementing that relationship, because there was no any other kids there. Great.
Yes.
So now you've transitioned now into property inspection, and your father is guiding you. He's not just a business partner. To me, the way you relate it sounds like he's almost like a mentor as well, like a very hands-on mentor, because that's what mentorship is all about, you know. It's different from coaching. Kind of like coaching, I'm teaching you from a distance, you do your thing. But mentorship is like, we're going to do it together, right? And I've done it before, and I'm helping you in the process. Having said that, in terms of the actual business, how did you guys define who does what?
My dad, both me and my dad are ITC certified roof inspectors, which is the Institute for Timber Construction. And he prefers those type of inspections because there's no report to do. You go out to site, you check whether the roof has been erected correctly. If it has, you issue the A19 certificate. If not, you tell the roof erector ABC is wrong, he corrects it, and you issue the certificate. So there's no reports to be done. So
and this is just for new builds, right?
For new roofs, yes.
Okay.
For new roofs, new timber trusses. So my dad doesn't do any property inspections anymore unless I ask him to come out with me, and purely because he doesn't enjoy doing the reports. He doesn't want
Right.
to sit down behind the computer for 8 or 10 hours to do a report. He'll
Right.
go with me on an inspection, give advice or give his opinion, but then off he is and he goes and does his roof inspections. He's not interested anymore in sitting behind the computer doing reports.
Okay, good. So now you've got this company going. When I started off in the property space, you know, your dad had been in it for several decades, and same applies with you. I didn't see typewriters. I saw them at the I saw them at the museum. But you know, I just came when I started working. You know, computers were slightly coming in. You know, so yes, we had a little bit of typewriters in some of the departments, things like that. But you had already had progressed in terms of knowledge, seeing things that are not working and things like that, and or things that work or things that are of alarm. When you got certified, I'm just trying to think here that, especially with what I see and what I hear, what I see is that there's not so many female who participate in the property space. I'm seeing a great change right now because even in my own business, I've got female business partner. My wife, she is a big property enthusiastic. But on the other hand, from a practical perspective, in terms of women that get certified to do a particular skill in the properties sector, it's not just about brick and mortar to build, right? There's other disciplines.
Yes.
What is your specialty and what's your views around, I'm just finishing matric, or I'm just struggling with my current job now, I'm thinking of a different profession and I like brick and mortar. Is it something for women?
TJ, in my opinion, there is no reason why women can't do it.
Right.
And I was brought up, my mother was a very strong person, and my dad also, except that he didn't want me in construction, but then he saw the day of light. But my mother always told me, whatever you want to do, you can do. And
Awesome.
that is what in my life, even at school, there was a lot of firsts that I did that most other people did not do. Like, for instance, when I was in primary school in standard, what is it now, grade 7,
Right.
they chose 50 girls out of the then Transvaal to go and study in electronics.
Okay.
It was to do high school electronics at a school in Potchefstroom. And that was the first time ever that they were going to allow girls to do electronics, because before it was only for boys. And of the 50, only 18 of us matriculated. So I'm used to doing first. You know, I've got no problem with it. And I get very upset if somebody says to me, no, but you can't do it because you're a woman. And I'm like, okay, the only thing sometimes that I might not do is when my husband drills a hole through the wall. He maybe holds the drill a bit better than me, and he maybe drills it a bit faster. But if I want to drill that hole through the wall, I will. Might just take me a bit longer, but don't tell me I can't do something.
Yeah.
You know, and when I arrive on site and I'm there to do an inspection, especially snag list inspections, the builders look at me and what do you know about construction? And then if they've got a bad attitude, I nail them immediately. And I stand at my car and I look around and I say, obviously more than you do, because I'm standing here and I can see 3 things which you have not done according to national building regulations. And then he looks at me and I'll grab my national building regulation book out of the boot and I'll say, ABC, you've done wrong. And then he normally shuts up and goes away. And then I carry on.
Yeah, you speak of the first. You are the first female inspector that I've ever seen. I'm
the only one.
No, I mean, you are the first
property inspector
practice that I've seen, you know, and you're the only one, yes, in our circles, but in terms of certification across the world, across the country, do you know of any other females?
No, I'm the only female property inspector, and as far as the ITC, the Institute for Timber Construction,
Yeah.
there are only 2 certified female roof inspectors, but the one lady doesn't work. So I'm the only working female roof inspector in the country.
Why is that so?
Again, I think females don't, or women don't want to go on site. I love going onto a building site. Put on my safety boots, put on my my hard hat,
Yeah.
take my roof plan, and up I go. And when I arrive on building sites to inspect roofs, a lot of times I have to climb up the scaffolding to get to the top floor to check the roof. A lot of times I have to take my ladder out the boot to get up onto the first floor, or I climb there. You know, the plasterers always make a ladder out of leftover wood on site, and I climb up that. I've got absolutely no problem. I love building sites, but a lot of women don't want to. They want to dress in their high heels, fancy clothes. They don't want to wear jeans and a golf shirt and go and muck about on a dirty building site. There's nothing that thrills me more than being on a building site.
I'm seeing that you are, I call my own mother, my Margaret Thatcher, because my mom hit 74 this year. And just now, before the recording, I was telling her not to climb on a ladder because she's wanting to clean up the windows. And I was saying to her, dude, if you have to follow over here, this is in Corona time, and you want to follow over on this ladder, please. You know, but having said that, right, if you're the only female who's practicing this, and yet there are so many females across the country, what is the exposure of such kind of a discipline? Because, you know, I see other disciplines, they intentionally out in schools advocating to say, you know, you can do this. Is it something that you have seen from your body of excellence, you know, people going out and things like that? Because maybe it's a profession that is not even known. You know, I only started knowing that there's an astronaut and a specialized doctor like a gynae when I got married. Before that, that person was out of my peripheral at all. So I didn't know.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So when I started going to school and learning all of these things, I had no aspiration to be that, because I just didn't know what I didn't know. So
yeah, TJ, unfortunately, the women are still being told a lot of times, no, you can't do that. You've got to be a secretary, or, you know, or do things that you don't get your hands dirty as such. And a building site, you know, still people think a building site is not a place for a woman. I've seen very few bricklayers and plasterers and electricians and plumbers that are women. And there's absolutely no reason why they can't do their job. In actual fact, I think women bricklayers will be good because they'll take more care of their work, you know, but that's just my opinion. But there's absolutely no reason. But in the property inspection industry, there's no real certification and qualification. But a whole lot of us inspectors got together 2 years ago, and we compiled a qualification. It took us 2 years, meeting, drafting everything, and we're just waiting. The lockdown has now put a spanner in the works again, but we're waiting for, it's been approved by the QCTA, and I don't know what next stage it's got to go through, and we're finalizing the syllables, and then it'll go out on tender to various colleges and things who would like to present it. But once that qualification is out there, then it'll be a lot easier, because at the moment, if you want to be a property inspector, I don't know, there is one course that's offered, but it's online, and I honestly believe that you cannot do what I do if you have not learned about it on site, hands-on. You can't learn about it on computer and in a book. You have to look at the cracks. You have to look at the damp. You have to look at the slope of the land. There are so many factors that influence all these various things. And once that qualification is up and running, I then believe that there will be a lot more people coming into the market, but then they at least have a qualification they can do.
Yeah. I've had the privilege of meeting your husband once or twice, and I'm just wondering here, whenever you're going out on site, does he call the insurance all the time to bump up the insurance just in case?
No, he's actually quite good. He just doesn't like my ladder. The other day we were working at the house doing things. I said, no, I'll get my ladder. He says, no, I don't like your ladder. It doesn't feel stable, you know, but he's lucky. He's got a bucky, so he can carry around that huge long ladder. I don't. I've got a car, so I've got one of those ladders that fold in four. Sure. He just keeps on saying to me, when are you taking your ladder in for a service again? Just make sure your ladder's fine and that you're not going to fall. But I'm also, you know, if I get to a site or it's rain, I don't walk on the roof if it's rain. I'm, you know, not taking, I want to buy myself a drone because I think that will be a lot easier with the roof inspections. Then at least I don't have to climb on top of the roof. I can just use the drone and inspect it properly. But, you know, he's the other thing that my husband is getting a bit grumpy with me, especially now with the lockdown, is, you know, I'll say to him, okay, lovey, we've now got the time, so let's do this, you know, maintenance. I'm very much pro maintenance. Keep on telling people it's much cheaper to do maintenance than to replace an item. So my husband has done a lot of maintenance at the house since the lockdown.
He's in trouble. Oh, no.
Yes.
Right. Marisha, I think it would be unfair of me to not share. I've been to many of your presentations. I've seen some of your work and reports and things like that. It will be unfair of me to actually not share some of the things that you have seen on people's houses, whether they're buying or they're not going to buy. But I want us to start off the conversation of, I now understand the advantage of having a person like you on my team as a property investor, because I can get a report, and particularly this report, I can use it for my maintenance plan, because you go on site, you tell me what is wrong, and you tell me exactly what needs to be fixed now, what can be fixed in 2 years' time, 5 years' time, so I can budget around that. And this from a property investment perspective. And particularly, it can also help as an individual. You've got your own house. But, yes. But your report has kind of like helped me in that way. But I'd like us to start talking the conversation around your inspection services, especially to an investor. In a minute or two, what value does it bring? That's number one. And then number two, can we jump in to see some of the things that you have seen that are scarier but can be resolved, right? Or can be utilized to my advantage as an investor. And over and above that, we can then talk on to the next topic. Is that okay?
Perfect. Cool. Yes, TJ, you see, as a property investor, I always tell people, make the offer subject to a full property report. And what you do when you get my full property report, and I say to you, listen, there's a major damp problem. And to repair the damp is going to cost 300,000 to 400,000 Rand. Now you say to the seller, hey, you know, I wanted to offer you, I'm busy with the client at the moment. They wanted to offer, it's a big block of student accommodation. They wanted to offer 21 million. The seller said, no, I want my asking price of 25 million. So they've put an offer in for 25 million subject to my report. So now when they get my report and I say, okay, but here's a problem on the roof. It's going to cost you 250,000 to repair. Here's a problem with this, that, and the next thing. You add everything up and they say to the seller, right, either you repair all of these things now and give me guarantees, or we drop the price by 2 or 3 million. So you use my report as a bargaining tool, because what I do is I take very clear pictures. I write you a nice story and I say, this is the problem. And if something was not done according to national building regulations or NHBRC guidelines, I quote the guidelines and the law. So you've got proof. Hey, this is the law. The building is supposed to be built according to the law. Here is proof that it wasn't. I now need to rectify. It's going to cost me 3, 4, 500,000. I mean, if you buy a house with broken roof trusses, you have to repair it. And it's not cheap to repair roof trusses properly. You can patch it, but then if they break, insurance won't consider your claim. And this is the big thing that I keep on telling people. They have to remember that if you've got a roof leak and it's because you didn't clean the gutters or the valleys are blocked or there were broken roof tiles or whatever, insurance is not going to consider your claim. You must read the fine print of the insurance. It says very clearly that if you do not do maintenance, they do not pay out and they don't have to. So know about these things before you buy the property.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I like what you're saying, because at many a times we go out there, we thumb such some numbers, this can be done, we can maybe renovate this thing. And from a negotiation perspective, when I'm now negotiating, I actually don't have a tool to negotiate. But your report is factual, it's unbiased, and whether I'm paying for it or someone else is going to pay for it, the fact of the matter is that it is factual and it's speaking to the building that we are buying, right? That you own as the seller. And for that reason, whether I am going to buy it or the next person, those things still needs to be sorted out, right? So it takes away the gray area of, no, it's not like this, or no, it's not like that. But for me as an investor, I suppose my first initial investment onto this project is the service fee that I now need to pay you for it.
Yes, but if you look at it, my report is done unbiased and I've taken out the emotion. I have no emotion about the building or the property you want to buy. I don't care. It's not in a suburb that I want to live. It's not a house that I want to own or whatever. I'm looking at the facts, and my agreement that you sign with me and my quote very clearly states that I will not be influenced by the buyer, the seller, the agent, the managing agent, the attorney, or anybody. I will state the facts. And I've actually walked away from inspections where the buyer said to me, listen, there's a crack there, it looks quite bad. Will you please say it's a structural crack so that I can get the price down? And I said, no, I won't. And that I've been busy with an inspection, and the seller said to me, listen, please don't say this is a structural crack, and I know there's a problem with the roof. What is the buyer paying you for the inspection? I will double it.
Really?
And then I just walked away. I said, no, I'm not interested. Thank you. You know,
Marisha, there's people that will do that. I mean, these are real life stories.
Yes, real life stories, and agents who say, please don't say this, please don't say that. I will give you a lot more business, just don't do this or whatever. And I just walk away from it. I tell my client, and I say, if you want me to do the inspection, the seller and the agent can't be there, and then I'll do the inspection.
So Marisha, your industry is not just about inspection to see, you're like almost the policeman here, because besides being a policeman, your integrity in your discipline, integrity is at utmost importance here, over and above just knowing how to inspect a building.
Yes, and TJ, the other thing that gets me so worked up is that buyers are being bullied by agents and by sellers, and then by their own emotions. You know, because the agent says, no, you don't need an inspection. What for? There's nothing wrong with this house. No, those cracks aren't serious. No, there's no issues here, because they want to make the sale. The seller has maybe just painted over the damp and the numerous plaster cracks because he wants to sell the house. And then your own emotions, or your wife really likes this house. She's fallen in love with the kitchen. You have fallen in love with the garden. You can see the kids playing there. So all of these things are bullying you into buying the house. Now I come in and I bring you back to earth. and I say, and a lot of people, when I give them the report, they say, oh, I never realized this was so bad. Now that I'm looking at the photographs, I see how bad the cracks really are. I never noticed it. You know, because you're walking in there, you're hanging curtains, putting furniture in, seeing the kids play, planning birthday parties and everything.
Yeah.
So you, and also, I mean, I get very upset with estate agents when they bully clients, especially first-time home buyers. You know, seasoned property investors have learned the tricks, and they just say to the agent, I'll make my offer when I'm ready, and I'll make the offer I want to put in. But first-time home buyers and property buying, you know, if you buy your first investment property, people are bullied. There's bullied.
A lot of emotions involved. Yeah.
And I take the emotions out of it.
Sure. Marisha, whilst I talk, I would like you to prepare maybe a few pictures where you have been and you have seen some horrific things, and just walk us through some of those horrific things that you have seen. And I'm just going to ask you a few questions on some of those things as you go along.
That's perfect. So, TJ, one of my pet hates are gutters that are blocked. So it's autumn, the leaves are falling, they're falling into the gutters, and people don't go and clean the gutters. So then what happens is you have water ponding in the gutters.
Is it necessary actually to clean the gutters?
If you have big trees around, you should clean the gutters every month, because you take the leaf every month while the leaves are falling, and then you clean it again just before the rainy season. Because if the water, if you look at this right-hand picture, if the water ponds in the gutter like this, it is going to rust through. And to clean the gutters, maybe going to cost you $100. But to replace the gutters on a 3-bedroom house is going to cost you 15,000 Rand plus. So much cheaper to clean the gutters. Damp is a major issue. And the reason is construction contractors don't do the jointed DPC level correctly. You can see there's a line in the plastering right at the top. Now, what that is supposed to be open. The plaster is supposed to be broken there. And the DPC, which is a damp-proof course, a plastic, is supposed to stick out and prevent rising damp. But the builders don't do it. They don't do it. Damp inside a house, like in this case, in a passage, and the reason for that is the shower on the other side. The shower wasn't waterproofed, or they didn't waterproof between the floor and the wall tiles, and now you've got damp coming through. Now, this is expensive to repair because you have to remove the tiles in the shower. You've got to re-waterproof the entire shower, and then you've got to re-tile again. So you can try, the first thing you can try is just to remove the grout and do the grout again with a waterproofing agent mixed in, and seal between the floor and the wall tiles with a waterproof silicone and see if it stops. But if it doesn't, you're going to have to remove the tiles, and that's expensive. You know, to chop off the tiles, retile and everything, it's a couple of $1,000 Rand.
Yeah. Whilst you're on that, my first 2-bed, 1-bath that I bought correctly, it was out in Kempton Park, and I still have the pictures of that unit. I eventually sold it sometime last year. I owned it for about 1.5 years. And what happened was that it was on the first floor, but above it, there was actually a toilet that had leaked over a long period of time. So this section where you are right now was actually part of a bedroom, and they didn't understand where this damp is coming from. And it was coming from upstairs, and it's been dripping in, and eventually, you know, I bought that property for around about 160,000. And this is in 2018, 17, somewhere there. And it was on the market for around about 360. We eventually sold it for around about 450. But my bargaining power was this damp section, because this was part of the big house.
Mm.
And you could call it, you know, the centerpiece of the house, because when you walk in, that was the sore eye right there.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so I also recently did an inspection for a townhouse complex.
Right.
One of these complexes where they have 3 stories,
Yeah.
and the guy on the middle story had water coming from the top, and the guy at the bottom was complaining that he had water coming from this guy, you know, from the middle floor.
Yes.
And they couldn't figure out what was going on. So I went and did the inspection, and what had happened is the builders built a little covering behind the toilets where the toilet pipes and the pipes were coming from the shower, and then it would go to the outside and link up with the other plumbing pipes.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those apartments had leaks in those pipes, and it was dripping down. And on the ground floor, they'd made the same mistake, and the ground floors was leaking out through the wall. So the guys were totally desperate. I told them what was the problem. No, they don't believe me. So I said, bring me a hammer. So we removed the plaster and found that the joints they had done on the plumbing pipes were not tightened enough, and they were leaking there. And the plumbers had mucked up this entire floor, all 3 apartments, one under each other.
Okay, cool.
So that is, it's quite important to look at things like that. Now, damp is very, very expensive to repair. If you look at the outside, the damp on the outside of the building, because you have to remove the plaster. Then you've got to inject a waterproofing agent, then you replaster, and then you've got to repaint the entire outside of the house. And that is what makes it expensive. On a 3-bedroom house, to repair the damp would cost you between 250 and 350,000 rand.
Wow.
So that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, roof trusses, when you view a property, people don't climb into the roof, and they don't go and have a look at the roof trusses. If you have a roof truss that's broken like this, it's a serious problem. That roof will fall in on your head one day. This client asked me to do a maintenance inspection for him. And I said, okay, well, I'm climbing into the roof. And he said, no, for what? I'm not. I said, I need to check the roof trusses. And found
This looks
out
like a
that
bent section.
Yes, it had burned. All the top cords, all the top pieces of the trusses were burned.
Oh.
You can see there's new plastic that was put in.
Yeah.
The burnt plastic was all over the ceiling, and all the trusses had burned. And I asked him, what did the seller declare? And he said, no, nothing. And the seller had moved to New Zealand. I said, contact the agent and ask the agent, when did this house burn? And he battled to get an answer out of the agent, but eventually went to the local newspaper, you know, the Randburg Sun, to their archived copies, found an article that this house burnt about a year before he bought it. And the seller never declared it to him. So now he's going to have to replace about 6 of these roof trusses that are just burned too badly that you cannot leave them in. This is serious. If this roof caves in, insurance won't pay. Insurance won't. So it's a problem.
So in this case, one goes in, the ceiling is nicely painted. You don't see anything at all. And you go in, you see it's nicely painted everywhere. But actually in the ceiling itself, the signs of bent are still there. When they repaired, they didn't do all the repairs. They just cleaned it up outside. Yeah,
they just cleaned it. They did absolutely no repairs to any of the roof trusses. They just put new plastic in under the tiles, and they didn't even take the burnt plastic off the ceiling. That ceiling was full of burnt plastic.
Wow. All right.
Really bad. Really bad. This is another thing. If you have a roof leak, when I did this inspection, the client declared there was a roof leak and they don't know why. You can see the valleys of the roof that are so full of leaves. So when it rains, the rainwater can't drain away, and it pushes in under the tiles in the direction of the yellow arrows. Now, if this happens, if they put a claim in with insurance to come and replace the ceilings, insurance wouldn't have paid because of the valleys being blocked. And you can see from the shade on the roof and all the trees hanging over the roof. I always recommend to my clients that they cut the trees back.
Yeah.
Flat roofs. A lot of people don't like flat roofs because they leak. But if you maintain the waterproofing every year, you won't have a problem. When it starts cracking like this, you've got a problem. You need to sort that out.
I have seen quite a lot of, if you go back to your slide there where we're talking about the roofs, flat roofs, in a lot of areas that we buy in, these are old neighborhoods, and especially in 4 or 5 story buildings, it's very common to have flat roofs. And I never used to go up there until a report that you did for us recently. And there was that flat roof that was there. And when I went through with one of my partners recently to another property, and they said to me, TJ, we just need to get Marisha on board in here because I don't know, I'm not just comfortable with this roof. And,
yes.
And then at that time, that's when I actually realized that sometimes what you see with the surface, it's not just enough. Having an expert coming in to verify it is, you might look at it as an expense now, but if you're buying that property, actually, it's a huge investment to knowing how you can manage it.
Yes, and also you must remember that when you've got my report and I say to you now, listen, this waterproofing cannot be saved. It has to be redone. So now you've got to do derby gum all over again. And I'll say to you, listen, it's going to cost, depending on the size of the roof, 100,000, 500,000. You're deducting that from the purchase price.
Sure.
Now you're redoing the waterproofing and you've done it properly and you maintain it, because if you maintain waterproofing annually, it will last a lot longer than the 10-year guarantee they give you.
Okay, good.
And you must just remember that you use my report as a bargaining tool because you've got proof now. And it's not you saying to the seller, listen, this is a problem. And he thinks, you're just saying it because you want the price to be reduced. This is me, independent. I say what I want. I say what I see, not what you want me to see or say.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So this is another thing that people tend to forget about, and old properties, especially if the guys haven't done maintenance. Well, you call it sprockets, the piece of the roof truss that sticks outside of the wall.
Yeah.
And these things must be treated every year or at least every second year with creosote, that black stuff that smells like tar.
Yeah.
And if they're broken and rotten like this, you have to cut it off, and then you have to fix this, and it's quite expensive. Just to give you an idea, if you paint the sprockets on a 3-bedroom house, it'll cost you about 4,500 rand. Right. If you only have to replace about 40% of them, it's in excess of 60,000. Wow. So again, a big difference between 5,000 and 60,000 rand. Yeah. Now this house had an added problem of a nice structural crack there as well. So luckily my client didn't buy this house because he was in for big bucks there. So this is how you must repair the sprocket. You cut the rotten timber off, and if the rotten timber was protruding 300 millimeters, you've got to overlap it at least 600 millimeters on the truss inside, bolt it and nail it, and then treat it. So this is really expensive to do. Really expensive to do.
Yeah.
So as I said, if you do not do maintenance on your roof and you want to put a claim in with insurance, they're not going to pay. They're not stupid. They come and have a look. They can see that you haven't done maintenance and they're not going to pay. And you won't win that fight. I can guarantee you. Now, when people come to a property and they see it's been painted, look at the wall from all angles. If you look at it head on, the wall looks pretty. But you can see I took this wall from an angle. You can see where they patched the cracks at the top.
Yeah.
And you can see where they painted over the damp at the bottom and how it's starting to bubble again. So don't think, oh, this place is nice. Look at it from all angles. Let the sun reflect on different places and have a close look. These cracks, I mean, you can see the damp's already appearing again, but these cracks will be back within 6 months. And it's because people patch them. They don't repair them.
Hey, I used to think that that's, they're just starting off to do graffiti on it, so it's...
Yes, that's true. Now, we've all seen cracks like this on a wall. Now, this one has become really, really bad. And it's because the parapet, the flat piece of the wall on top is not waterproofed. And it's been left for a long time. Now, the black in the cracks that you can see on the left-hand side, you can see it nice and clearly. That is the water going into the cracks. This plaster is so loose. If you knocked on it, it would fall off. So you've got to be careful when you buy something like that, that the agent is going to tell you, no, you can just paint it over. You can't. Go and knock on the plaster. That plaster will fall off.
So here the problem is not the structure; it's more cosmetic on the plaster. So you can literally take it off, replaster the whole house. But I mean, you can now make an argument of that piece of work to be replastered.
Yes, because first, now you must remember you've got to remove the plaster.
Sure.
Then you've got to take that rubbish away. Then you've got to replaster. Then you've got to waterproof the parapet wall on top, and then you've got to repaint. So that's a fair amount of cost that you're going to be in for that you deduct from the purchase price.
Wow. Okay, cool.
And you see, when I do my report, I explain it like that. I say, listen, you need to remove the plaster, do this, do that, so that it's not just the case of, okay, so there's a little bit of work, but I explain what must be done so that the seller knows that you know exactly what's going to go into getting this done correctly again.
Yeah. Marisha, I think that there is enormous value. I'm going to let you to throw in this one for us as well on the swimming pool. I think this is a common one. I can see you can go on with so many examples.
I can carry on for 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, all of these are real life examples that you have been involved in yourself, right?
Yeah. Now, TJ, when a lot of people have seen cracks at the swimming pool and the paving starts sagging and everything. In this case, when I went outside, the owner was talking to me nonstop. He was just showing me his plants and this and that, and he just didn't want me to walk down the pool.
Right.
And you can see this crack is serious. This is the whole paving has sagged to the right. And when I looked closely, there was this huge crack inside the pool, and if you looked further in the pool, you could see where he had patched it already.
Okay.
So this is not just redoing the paving. This is actually a huge job to repair the swimming pool.
Is this scenario like a no swimming pool event, like can't save you anymore?
If in my opinion, I would have closed up this pool, because this pool had major problems. Major problems.
Okay.
Yeah, major problems.
All of these that you see, Marisha, as you go along, it is things that can be resolved, isn't it?
Yes, it can. But the biggest thing that I always tell people is that they must remember that there is a big difference between repairing and patching.
Okay.
So if you patch a crack, it's going to come back. I just want to show you, I just want to get to this crack, TJ.
Yeah.
Let me just share this screen. This is a structural crack. And when my clients bought this house, the house was beautiful. It had just been painted. And within 6 months, this crack opened up. Now, if you look at this, can you see how it moved away from the foundations? You can see where the red arrows are showing is the foundation of the house, and you can see how much it actually moved.
Yeah.
Now, what happened here is my client bought the house and they didn't ask for the approved building plans.
Okay.
And when they put a claim in with insurance, insurance says we don't pay for subsidence. They contacted me. I came to do the inspection. I said, right, the way you do it is you put a claim in against the engineer's professional indemnity insurance, because the engineer designed these foundations like his backside.
Yeah.
There were no approved building plans on file. So this buyer added on this kitchen and lounge without approved building plans. Very obvious that he was dealing with not reputable builders.
Yeah.
And luckily for my clients, because it was within the first 2 years, they could reverse the sale. So what the seller had done here is he just filled in these cracks and painted over it. And they appeared again. So the way to repair these cracks are to underpin the foundations. That's,
Yes.
you can repair this. This is expensive. This client with this would have probably cost them about 1.5 million rand to repair these serious structural cracks, but it can be done. But it's not, you can't use polyfiller. You can't use polyfiller for these cracks. And that is the big thing. All of these things can be repaired, but they can be patched as well. You know, as I say, people patch things. If I walk into a house to do an inspection and the place has just been painted, I go, oh no. Now my inspection's going to take an hour longer because I need to see what are they hiding. What did they paint over? Where the cracks they're hiding? Where's the damp? Now I've got to sniff it out.
Marisha, in my conversation today with you, I'm going to tell you what I'm picking up. A lot of people always ask me the question, is property not risky to go into? And I'm always saying, well, just waking up alone is risky. So there is nothing that doesn't have a risk. It's just about you wanting to accept that risk and knowing how to maintain it. And I've learned from Robert Kiyosaki that if you've got a risk and you don't know how to mitigate that risk, you just don't have the right partner on board. And partner doesn't necessarily mean that it's a business partner. It can be a service provider like you, or it could be a partner that you're working with. And my business is built around partnerships with people of different skills. But I also utilize people like you that have a skill that I don't have. So I don't need to worry about all of these things. I know that if I see the risk, I can highlight it to you. You can come in and mitigate it for me. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm hearing from you is that whatever you do, whether you have a house that you stay in or whether it's an investment, the moment you are buying it or you've bought it already, the most important thing is maintenance is far cheaper than repair, all right?
Definitely.
And I am guilty of that. I did buy my silicone the other year, and
the other year. No, TJ, you've had 7 weeks of lockdown.
Actually, last year in November, I bought it, and I was hoping that in December, I would do all my taps and my sinks and things like that. I haven't just come around to do it. My maintenance guy came to my house the other day, actually about 3 days ago. Our ceiling was sagging, and I asked him, do you have a gun that I can utilize? And I still haven't. I haven't done it.
Oh dear,
so,
TJ.
But since on me, yes, I will get to it. But I think that this is the reality of many of us. We have the good intentions. Time just tickets away. But, you know, you've just highlighted to me. So this weekend, my son is 12. I think we are going to do this kitchen sinks this week.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's the one thing I'm also hearing from you. The third one I'm hearing from you is all of these problems that can come up, whether you have now identified it for us and we can see it and we have decided to buy the property or not to buy the property. The reality of it is that it can be fixed, but there's the right way of fixing it. And once you know how to do it, a person like you within your profession, if I don't know how to repair it or how to claim it, you can direct me into the right channels, because Like, for instance, you speak about engineering, insurance, and things like that. It's things that I don't know as a layman, right? But they are there to help all of us.
And also in the Proud Homeowner, there's an entire chapter on maintenance.
Correct.
So in there, we also give you a lot of guidance and a lot of do's and don'ts.
My problem, Marisha, is that I have read it all. It is the actioning part that's the problematic. You see, I'm not a tools guy. I'm of the view, I've told my wife before that, you know, my wife's father was actually a builder by profession. So my wife has all of these expectations of me, you know, being a handy guy. I'm not. I'm the opposite.
But then she must do it. If her father was a builder, she must do it. There's no reason she can't do it.
I'm going to throw that one back at her very soon. Marisha, in closing, to a novice investor who's kicking in, or maybe someone seasoned, maybe let's start off with a novice one. They're wanting to get involved in property, and they're saying that, hey, it's too risky with all of these things that we've spoken about. What one advice would you give them?
TJ, get a property inspection done. And once I've done the report for you, I am there to ask a lot of questions. You know, I hold my clients' hands a lot of times. And once you've bought the property and you want to repair the stuff and whatever, phone me. I have very few contractors that I do recommend. I only recommend people if I'm 100% sure they're going to give you the best service out. Or otherwise, I will help you to vet your repairmen or whatever you want to do. Or I come and do inspections while they're doing the repairs and things for you. But I'm there with my knowledge. I love helping people. I want people to be I don't want them to be bullied. I'm there. I'll bully the estate agent for you. I'll bully the builder for you. That's what I'm there for. And I'm here to hold your hand. And it is a big, scary world out there. But with my property report, you will negotiate a better price. With a proud homeowner in your hand, you will say to the builder, this is what it must be done. This is how it must be done. Here's proof. Here's the National Building Regulation. Don't argue with me. And then you're fine. Then you're fine. And just do maintenance. I do a lot of maintenance inspections for people when they own blocks of flats, houses, even for their own houses. And I give you a 10-year maintenance plan. Wow. Invest in a 10-year maintenance plan. You will know what to do, when to do, how to do it, how not to do it. And set the money apart. If you bought your first property, put 10% of your monthly rental into a different account and keep it for maintenance. You will not be sorry, because one day when you want to sell that property, you are going to sell it for a much higher price than what you bought it for. If you just look, you as a property investor, you always buy the worst looking property on the market. Why? Because you know you can get it for a really cheap price. But if you do maintenance on your place, you're going to get a much, much higher price.
Marisha Roberts, thanks a lot from Gauteng Inspect, and they do property inspections. Boom, boom, boom. Thanks a lot for being around, and thanks a lot for just sharing. I think this has been enormous knowledge for me. It has also kicked me a little bit in the butt to get my action into gear. And over and above that, you know, there is a book for some of you guys that like to read. And I am going to put on your website, Marisha, this book is available, right?
Yes, it is available.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, Marisha, she's the only female inspector. But, you know, I'm not saying that she's the only female inspector so that you can book her, but for the fact that she's been at it for a long time, I respect her skill, and her skill has brought in enormous value into our business as we have grown in. The unfortunate part about me is that I got to understand what she does a little bit later when I started off. And I used to see it as an expense versus as an investment until I started seeing some of Marisha's reports and how it can help us. And at the moment, some of our properties that we're buying, we utilize her skills so that we can have that big plan, 10-year plan, and there is nothing in business that can help you other than knowing your forecast. How much money are you getting? How much money are you going to be spending for what? And Mauritius reports, it helps us in doing that. Hey, there are other emergencies that are going to kick in between, but the point is that you've got a guiding line. And when you're working on that guiding line, your property, whether you have a caretaker on the property, whether you're bringing in maintenance people, you know exactly what they are there for, right? So your caretaker guy is not just guy who's there to clean and chase people for it, but there is more that he can do for you. And with this report, for us, we've actually just taken it, copy and paste. This month, this is the focus. What are we going to buy? Buy in bulk. That property, that property, that property. That's how it has worked for me. So Marisha, thanks a lot for having time coming through to speak to us. I've really enjoyed it. So thanks a lot for coming through. And there you are, ladies and gentlemen. That was Marisha Robas. And I told you, we only bring successful friends. And you can see she's a lot of wealth and knowledge. Until next time we meet, God bless. Cheers. Goodbye.
Thanks, TJ.